Tip 9, similar but different, clone stamp and the healing brush tool. These are really commonly used tools in Photoshop. I use them all the time. Let's make this layer invisible. We talked about it briefly earlier, the clone stamp versus the healing brush tool. The clone stamp is going to be a really great tool when you want to make a direct copy of whatever you're doing. In this case, let's say I want to close up that, there we go. I want to close up this Y a little bit. Maybe I want to make this look a little bit fresher. So what I'm going to do is hit S for my clone stamp tool. I'm on a new layer here. I want to make sure I'm sampling the current layer and the below. If I just sample my current layer, it's not going to do anything because there's nothing on my current layer. So I want to make sure it's sampling current and below. And a quick tip for you guys, you can see I've got a little preview of what I'm actually going to clone stamp visible in my brush. That's super nice to have. To get to it, just go to Window and then down here to Clone Source. And there's a little option where you can click Show Overlay. You can see it's unchecked. I don't actually see what I'm doing. With that button checked, I can see what I'm doing, and it makes aligning things so much easier. So we're going to do that. I'm going to sample right here, and then we're going to paint right up top of there. All right, we'll do it again. Sample right here, and paint right in this area. And you can see I'm using the exact same, there we go, I'm using the actual information from the Y to complete that selection. So being able to sample, there we go, and paint in with a preview is allowing me to create a lot more detail than I would have originally had. There we go. And it's a very, very easy way to fix any sort of thing like this, including things like blemishes on skin. So if you had a pimple, you could clone stamp an area similar and actually take care of it. Now, clone stamp, keep in mind, will create a direct copy. Let's say you like the texture of this end. So I want to sample this texture of the end, and I'd like to paint it here on the truck, something like that. Well, because it's a clone stamp tool, it's going to create a direct copy, okay? It literally is a copy of whatever is over here. Now, the healing brush tool is a little bit different. The healing brush tool will allow you to sample the texture of wherever you're painting, and it'll blend it in with the color of wherever you paint. So if I let go here, you can see I now have that texture that was on that end over here. Let me choose an area that's got a little bit more high contrast so you guys can see. We'll just choose her necklace. So if I hold Alt or Option and I sample on her necklace and I start painting this on her shirt, a clone stamp tool will be done here. If I let it go, it'll be done. If I let go with the healing brush tool, you can see it takes the color, there we go. I let go and it does its best job to try to blend that in together. Now another example would be, this is gonna look weird, but we'll just show you guys. Why not? I'll just sample her lips and we'll paint her a new set of lips on the side of her face. It's gonna look weird. But the healing brush tool is going to do its very best to blend those together. So did you see how there was a color shift right when I let go? It did its best to blend those together. Now, if you're not doing something so funky like trying to copy a pair of lips, it's really easy to get rid of things like this. I'm just sampling over here and painting right over top, basically getting rid of things like that, because those things are considered basically just textures. So any of these blemishes I want to get rid of, sample over here, paint right there. And it's going to get rid of all of these blemishes for me on the side of my car or whatever it is. You can pretend. She has perfect skin, you know. It's like, this would be great if she had pimples, but she doesn't. So I'm using truck pimples, basically, to show you how to get rid of this. So yeah, anytime you need to remove a little bit blemish, things like that, and you have a nice area to sample from that area and paint right over there, it's going to blend together. Now, where do you use the healing brush tool versus the clone stamp tool? Healing brush tool is perfect if you're in a wide open area. Okay, so blemishes like this, you know, get rid of that guy, easy to do. But if something was right here at the edge and I were to paint over, I let go with the healing brush tool and look at what it's done. It's blurred everything together. So if you're near an edge, that's when you want to get your clone stamp tool out, because your clone stamp is not going to try to blur things together. It's not going to try to fit anything together after you let go. It's just going to be a direct copy of wherever you're painting. So whenever you're near an edge, make sure you're using the clone stamp tool The rest of the time, you're going to be pretty good with a healing brush tool. All right, everyone pretty good on that? All right, cool. I think we're on 10. Man, 5 minutes to go. Expert timing. Blend layers together for more believable effects. Let's pop into Photoshop. We're going to blend some layers together. I'm going to show you, let's say you don't want to use curves and levels to actually color your image. Let's say I just want to create a new layer, and I just want to fill the whole thing with like a nice teal color. So I'm going to hold Alt or Option and fill the entire layer with this. Okay, quick keyboard shortcut. Whenever you're trying to figure out what blending mode is going to work the best, hit the V key. V is going to be your keyboard shortcut for the Move tool. So if I'm in my Move tool, what it's going to do is it's going to default to my layer. And now when I use my keyboard shortcuts, it's going to change the blending mode of my layer. So I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to hit the plus and minus on my keyboard. And it's going to scroll all the way through every single one of my blending modes, which is very, very helpful. Now, if I'm using my brush tool and I hit Shift plus and minus, it's going to change the blending mode of my brush. So keep in mind, switch the Move tool first, and then hold down Shift plus and minus, and that's going to allow you to cycle through all of your different blend modes. So just remember, I filled this entire thing with this teal color, and there are all these different blend modes that are going to allow this teal color to blend with my image. So if I wanted to edit the color of my image, I wanted to add a little bit of this teal, I could set this layer to something like Screen or Soft Light, and it would actually take this color and introduce it and blend it with the rest of my image. Not only that, but I can do relatively funky effects like, you know, that looks like Lady Gaga CD cover or something like that. But you can do all kinds of funky effects that are going to blend these things together. I would say, keeping in line with everything else that we talked about today, the most commonly used are going to be towards the top. And in this case, with blending modes, they're broken down into different categories. So we have our normal category at the top. This is our darken category. So everything in here is going to darken the image. Our lighten category, everything is going to lighten the image. And then our overlay category, everything is going to blend evenly with the image. So darken, you can see how that works. Lighten, we can see how that works. And then overlay, blending back together again, so you don't have just a blue. And there's a quick introduction to our different blending modes. And you know what? I kind of like lighten, but it's too opaque. It's too visible, so we're just going to lower the opacity down. There we go, and give it a little bit of that nice, cool retro look. All right, there we go. Let's go back here and review our 10 tips. So, save for web and devices. Start learning those commonly used tools. Make the most out of your selections. Use layer effects with the type tool. Use curves and levels to color your images. Remember what we did on our lips. Use layers, masking, and grouping as possible, as often. I did not say that right. As often as possible. Keyboard shortcuts save a lot of time. Have some fun with the filter gallery, similar but different. Clone stamp and the healing brush tool. Remember, the clone stamp tool used towards the edges. That's going to really help out a lot. And number 10, blend layers together for more believable effects using your blending modes. That's 10 tips for Photoshop beginners.